Hello, everybody. I'm Sam. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a software engineer at a company called Amplitude, but I'm not here representing them today. I'm here as an individual. I'm going to talk about kind of the hackathons I've been to, some of the projects I've been involved in, and the lessons I've learned, which I think is the bit that you really want today. And then I'm going to share some advice on winning this event. Right? We've got plenty to get through, so let's jump straight in. This presentation is not a normal presentation. You can participate right now by going to follow.sld.codes. If you're watching virtually, there is a delay. I apologize in advance. The polls and stuff might not work as well. Cool. I'm going to give you just a second to get into the room. None of you have got there yet. Oh, one person, 3 people, 4 people. Okay, this is really good. All right, wonderful stuff. Okay, so before we jump in, because this is weird to you, presumably, quick show this UI, you can change your theme up in the top corner. You can go full screen if you're on a laptop. You can see how many people are connected down the bottom, and you can spread some joy if you want to. There's a little emoticon in the corner. Go for it whenever you like. So I wanted to start with this picture, and this is the moment I got addicted to hackathons, right? The look of bewilderment on my face as I was handed an Xbox. The reaction would have been even bigger had I known that I was about to take a massive tangent in my career. So the first question is, have you attended a hackathon before? If you could please answer on your phone. Yeah?
But account.
You
Is
know?
that password? It keeps.
Oh, that's because you're swiping up. Don't swipe up. Good. Once or twice. Have you got any people who are pros in the room? Many times. Who's the many times? Okay. Shy. That's what that is. Okay, down the front. Okay, cool. So, flashback time. The year is 2017, and I was in my third year of university. I was studying artificial intelligence and hating it. You see, it was too mathsy, and I was bored. And my best mate, Jonathan, said that he saw my boredom, and he said, you should come along to a hackathon. And so, in my university, we ran a hackathon every year called Hack Kings. And together with Johnny and Jordan, who's pictured there, they're very happy, we entered. And we stayed up all night building a prototype of an app called Beat Street. Unfortunately, this is the only picture I have of the app. It's a very long time ago. But Beat Street takes your current location and attempts to play music related to where you are. But hopefully you can kind of see the UI in the picture at least. And you can see my excitement as Ashley Avenue played Great Ashley's Never Gonna Give You Up. And then we did something stupid. So having stayed up all night, we were kind of shattered, right? Which is probably how you're going to feel tomorrow. We pitched the app to the judges. We hadn't finished all the features we wanted, and we felt that in this incomplete state, we were not going to win anything. So, like fools, we left. Big mistake. 1 hour later, our phones are blowing up. Every member of the hackathon organizing committee is trying to get hold of us because they want us to present in the final, right? Which leads me on to the very first lesson. The idea is the hack, not the code. Regardless of the state of your code, as long as you can convey your idea well, your hack is good enough, right? All the extra bells and whistles, styling, animation, all of that can be thrown away as long as you can convey that idea. And this is where the story kind of takes a tangent. We're going to a redemption story. So fast forward a couple of months, Johnny and I are on a trip to Brighton, and we're still kicking ourselves. And Johnny turns to me and says, I think we should try again. And it just so happened that the largest student-run hackathon in the UK, called IC Hack, was happening at Imperial College 2 weeks from that moment. So Johnny and I managed to get tickets, and we vowed that this time we would stay until the very end. And I don't know if you're familiar, but there is a large amount of rivalry between the London universities. This time we wouldn't be competing on home turf, and this was immediately noticeable when Johnny and I showed up and tried to find 2 teammates. It was like the moment when you were the last person to be picked in the football team or sports team. No one wanted us, partially due to our lack of skill and partially because of our university choice, right? We ended up forming a team with the only 2 who were left, right? A team of 4, the last picked. However, this ended up being a great thing because they had front-end experience while we had none. And so that brings us on to point 2. A good team is a varied one. Unfortunately, I think you probably all pick teams now, so I hope you've made good choices. A hackathon team is at its best when it's comprised of people from all different backgrounds, so you'll have different ideas, hopefully different skill sets as well, so you can kind of work together to build something great. So with a fair amount of determination, we stayed up all night, and it turned out that we finished the back end early, and that was the bit I was doing. and I was asked by one of the two new teammates to work on the front end with them. And this was my first exposure ever to front end. I was immediately hooked, but incredibly inexperienced. So I was asking for help left, right, and center. And by some miracle, people were helping me at 2 a.m. Who knows if I would be in front end today without this experience? So the brief for this particular hack was to use Microsoft APIs in an interesting way. And we settled on their image recognition APIs, which were new at the time. They've now been out 5 years, making me feel very old. And many teams were using the image recognition stuff, but we did something that was a little bit different. So we kind of made multiple image recognition models that fed into each other instead of just using one. It's common for people to turn up to a hack with an app idea without working out if it actually fits the brief. They try and bend it to match the brief, but this always puts you at a disadvantage. If you're in it to win it, wait until you have the brief in your hand to make the decisions. You've already done that. So this is the app we built. It's called Spidentified. Spidentified is an app that takes a photo of a snake or a spider and attempts to classify it. We envisioned people would use this in the rainforest after being bitten by something. They'd take a picture of it, and we'd tell you whether you were going to die or not. And if you were going to die, we'd send you to the nearest hospital. Now, a funny fact about this is it's very broken. It doesn't matter what you give it. It will either tell you it's a snake or a spider. So during our demo, we gave it a picture of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump came out as a snake. Whole auditorium starts laughing, right? Which is super, super helpful. People love that, right? Humor is important. Get some humor into your presentation deck. But it was broken, right? So now in this case, we chose to show how the audience how broken it was. But every hackathon project I've ever worked on has involved cutting corners, right? You can't get it done in the amount of time you have, and that's okay. A small amount of faking it can sometimes let you get rid of a great deal of stress, and also helps you solidify your idea with the judges. We ended up taking first place at this hack, and I left with more than just an Xbox. I'd made some new mates, but I'd also found a new passion for front-end development. I immediately contacted my graduate scheme coordinator and said I wanted to do front-end in my role. As my studies came to a close, I thought that so would my hackathon career. Most events I was aware of seemed to be geared towards students, and I no longer was one. Luckily, I was wrong. Fun fact, this photo here is the last time I ever wore a suit. Every non-pandemic year since, I've gone back to IC Hack as a sponsor or mentor, and this is where 2 great ideas were sparked. The first was the Hackathon Survival Guide. More on this fabled thing later. And the second is actually the idea for this presentation software. This started with a focus on the content. Those who are late, if you go to follow.sld.codes, you can join in. At every student hackathon, there is always a horde of sponsors trying to grab your attention. Right? They normally get 5 to 10 minute slots at the opening ceremony to try and sell you on their grad schemes or internships or jobs, right? They would add slides with hundreds of lines of text on them, and each one you wouldn't read through and you'd get bored, and it would send the students to sleep before the hackathon had even started. I wanted to challenge this. So I tried to codify the presentation software into a kind of like a hackathon project of my own. Keep it simple, keep it focused on their learning, right? I figured that by doing so, I'd potentially get American Express, who was my employer at the time, more graduate signups. And instead of speaking about graduate schemes, I talked about how they could elevate their hack, in which I give tips, that you'll see from in this deck. This is a long time ago, so it's kind of evolved. Yearly applications from Imperial College went up 200% in 3 days. So American Express decided to capitalize on this and send me all over the world. A couple of job shifts later, and the world locked down. During lockdown 1.0, I held my own hackathon with one attendee, me. And the brief was to improve on PowerPoint. You see, me and PowerPoint aren't friends. In fact, I would go so far as to say I hate it. I strive for pixel perfection in my decks, and using a drag and drop is not the best way to get it. I also don't need all the extra bits and bobs. I like my slides to be clear, concise, get the point across big and bold. Quick question for you, which is older? Michael Jackson's Thriller or PowerPoint? I see right.
Sorry, what's the website again? The link?
Follow.sld.codes. Sam Larsen-Disney, SLD.codes. Yeah, cool. All right, it looks like we have a bit of mixed feelings about this. And that's just as well, because it's a trick question. They're both as old as each other. Being released in 1987. So it's older than the internet, and it's definitely stood the test of time. There's no denying that. But there's got to be something better out there for developers, so I started looking for an alternative. and I found it in something called MDX. MDX is Markdown and JavaScript thrown into one. It's an awesome combination that allows you to do charts and animations inside normally blog posts that I've kind of manipulated into a presentation format. It's SEO friendly and more accessible. Using this stuff and now have them deployed on the internet. Hopefully you're seeing them when they're working, because I haven't seen many confused faces, so I'm assuming it is. Still not live though, right? Someone can't follow along with me as I present. The idea for that came to me while I tried to present my screen at home in lockdown with very crappy internet in a basement flat. And what my counterparts were seeing was a very pixelated screen, and I thought my slides deserved a better delivery than that. So I was thinking, why don't I let my audience follow along as I present? And so I achieved this with sockets, which you should look at if you have any real-time functionality in your app. If you ever ordered food off Uber or used Deliveroo or booked a cab, I don't know, all of that functionality, when your package arrives through the post, for example, with Amazon, and you can track it as it's coming, all of that is done with sockets. So if you've got any real-time behavior, look into it. It's awesome. I also dabbled in making this controllable with hand gestures. This is a very old version of my site, and this demo is a tiny bit long, but it is worth showing off. So this is something called PoseNet in the bottom left. It's tracking my skeleton, and when I gesture left or right, it changes the slides forward or backward. There you go. I was watching a TED talk and watching this guy's like gesture with his hands, like no tomorrow. And I was thinking that's so much wasted energy. But this might turn into something good. Who knows? When I first set this up, it wasn't Fossil. So what would happen is you'd go like this, and it would go like 100 slides, like straight away. Yeah, good fun. Mission complete, right? With the live presentation feature now enabled, my own little personal hackathon was complete. Still in lockdown, right? With lockdown seemingly never ending, I was looking for another project to sink my teeth into, and I said I was addicted to hackathons, and I meant it. You see, for me, the reasons I participate in hackathons have changed a lot recently. It used to be, as a student graduate, it was all about learning, and now it's about escape. You see, in your day job, it's impossible to reach your full potential all the time. As engineers, we might be slowed down by politics, design, constraints, legal requirements, test code coverage, logic that just won't work, and this feeling felt amplified by lockdown. So for me, hackathons provide a way to get out of those situations and flex those creative muscles, right? Remind yourself that when there's nothing in your way, you can achieve whatever the hell you want. And if you want to participate in a hackathon, then there is no better place than right here, right now, or devpost.com. I've completed plenty of hacks through the platform, and I would highly encourage that you do if you haven't. I want to talk about one of these today. The Hack for Sustainable Future, which was a hackathon hosted by a company called Esri. Esri is a company that works a lot with the environment, and this was an opportunity for me to participate in a hack, but also help the planet. So I was immediately sold, right? I got stuck in with a good mate and friend, Yanis, and the hackathon was focused on using their new APIs. They released a whole new set. I'm not going to bore you with them, but there's 2D and 3D maps, geospatial analysis, that kind of stuff. And now you might think with that kind of tool set, you're going to be building something geography-based, right? Maps. And we tried to do something a little bit different. So you see the internet is responsible for nearly 3.7% of the global CO2 emissions. That is more than the airline industry. It's more than the emissions of China and the US combined. It is a very scary number. 1 megabyte of data set is equivalent to about 10 grams of carbon produced, roughly, at least here in the UK. If you are scrolling through Instagram, that's like one photo, probably at a max, is 1 megabyte, maybe more. So I depends how good the quality is, right? So just be conscious of the next time you're going through an endless scroll. But then the data being said. And we're not even all fully connected to the internet yet, right? When more people get on the internet, the more carbon we're going to burn. We've got to be a little bit more conscious about it. Anyway, so while playing around with our personal websites, we play with Lighthouse. If you haven't tried it and you want to see how good a website is doing, it's quite a good metric to have a look at. It tells you about performance and SEO and accessibility. I haven't got full green, you can see there, it's a little bit depressing. Working on it. So we realized that we were sending a lot of information, and that was producing a lot of carbon. And it led us to ask the question, how can we fix it? And so we built a thing called digitalfootprint.earth, which is live, but if you go to the site, you'll see we faked it, and you can't log in with email address and password, and everything log in is with a Google account, but you can have a go if you want. And the first thing it does is it attempts to identify the impact, right? Bring the impact that you have when using the internet to life. And the second thing it does, we create an interactive story that helps you to understand the human impact of you visiting a certain website. We use mathematics and mapping technology, and we can estimate and visualize the CO2 produced as we navigate any given web page. The second thing we want to do is obviously reduce the CO2. So how do we reduce it? So we investigate a site's hosting, CDN provider, and the size to try and suggest mechanisms for shrinking your website down so that you produce less carbon. And finally, we audit the sites and we rank them. We give them a score, right? And then that score can be put on websites and shown as, okay, well, we got 7 out of 9, and that's pretty good. Or we got 3 out of 9, and we should probably do something about it. We also then aggregated all this information and tried to work out at a higher level how is this all going together. There's a lot of hackathon projects I've seen going around where you're going to collect a whole ton of data, and it didn't look like necessarily you were considering the bigger picture. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to set something up that's a bit higher level that can kind of show how this is affecting things on a larger scale. So I suggest you have a look at that. We took around $10,000 at this event. In the past year that I've entered, at the time of writing this, I entered 5 and I won 4. It's now 6 and 5. I spent a lot of time working out why this was. And our hacks are not the only well-executed ones. There's lots of them out there, but one of the most important lessons is that you should try and make your hackathon project related to you, right? You want a personal connection to it so that judges see that you're invested in it. As I competed more and more, I realized that there were more and more common themes that led us to winning. And a long time ago, I wrote a blog post, which you probably won't be able to find, called Sam's Hackathon Survival Guide. It was filled with tips and tricks for beginners when getting started at hackathons for the first time. And when building the most recent version of my personal website, I started to implement and improve on the version of this guide spread across multiple different posts. And I was writing, and it was getting longer and longer. It was kind of like writing a love letter. This is a genre I absolutely love. It got long, real long, like book level long. So I investigated the market. If you go on Amazon and type in hackathon and you look at the books, there's some really big chunky textbooks, and it's either that or you have books that are about 5 to 10 pages long, and they're trying to make you pay full price for a book for it. But also they're all focused on organizing them and not on attending them, right? So having recently completed my first book, which none of you will want to read, please do not. It looks like a textbook, that's not what I'm about. I felt uniquely qualified to write this one. So I recruited a good friend and graphic novelist. I mean, that's a great person to know. If you can find a graphic novelist, hold on to them. And together we built the Hackathon Survival Guide, which is kind of like the whole of a hackathon journey, from the origin of where hackathons came from to forming a team, planning, blah, 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 to next steps. I'm not going to pitch you and try and sell you on the book. Please, if you want to read it, read it. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. You're currently 4 hours into your hack. By this point, you probably have an idea or two and might already have started implementing it. I thought I would touch on some of the relevant content from the book and use some of the illustrations from it to help you do it. Number 1, timing tips, right? Your most precious resource over the next day is your time. How much time do you think should be spent building the idea? Got a bit of a mixed opinion on that. Give you another second. Cool. Okay, well, you've gone live. I mean, so this is my idea of the breakdown. Do with it what you want, but I think on the whole, you guys think you're about to have the right thing. So 10% idea generation, time to develop and refine that winning idea. So really up to now, right? 20% on your presentation. That sounds like a lot of time on presentation. We'll get to that in a minute. 5% submission and 5% team building, which leaves you with 60%. Take with it what you will. I suspect many of you thinking that that's a lot of time for the presentation. Consider that when you pitch to the judges, your presentation may be on the screen the same amount of time as your project demo, right? If not longer. Also remember that it's not just creating the presentation, but also memorizing what you're going to say so you look good when you say it and don't hold an iPad like me. Good. Idea validation. Saying yes when talking about stuff is super helpful. If someone is pitching an idea to you, don't shoot it down. Say yes and keep it going, keep the flow going. Rather than quickly shutting an idea down, it would be best to initially just accept it, enabling the discussion to continue. And then saying and helps people steer clear from actually directly changing what has been suggested, but instead building on it. Some of these rules I've already given out, I'm going to give them again. So the first one is the simplicity rule. You know you have a good idea when you can explain it in simple terms. If the concept takes half an hour to explain, you're going to struggle to convince a team to participate, and when you come to present it to the judges, you may lose their attention before you get to the demo. Also, if you start small enough, you can probably build it, and then if you want to expand on it, great, keep going, but start small and then iterate up. Keep the problem statement and idea related to you. Firstly, it helps your motivation through the event because you care about what you're working on. You'll be more invested in the problem you're solving. Secondly, a personal connection makes conveying a story about the idea's origin to the judges easier. And then finally, make sure you choose an idea that has the possibility of being something grander outside of this hackathon. Ideas found at Hacks can go on to win millions of dollars. There was an app built a very long time ago when Skype was still a thing. And it was a team that basically used what it would be effectively now like Twilio today, where they had they set up group text messaging. It'd never been done before. You send a text message to one number and it sends it out to everybody else, right? That's all it did. Skype bought them for $69 million, right? Something you do as simple as that could make you lots of money. So think about the potential behind the idea and where it could go. Final thing I want to talk about, as you all know, the event is over 2 days, and some of you might be considering pulling it on later. So I thought I would finally just talk on like some advice for surviving that. Even a single night without sleep will affect you like big time. Sorry. Being around you while you're irritable can be uncomfortable and challenging, especially if you have not made others aware of how you are feeling. If you are tired, voice it, right? That way others can try and be gentle with you. It sounds so stupid, but it's so true. You're also unlikely to be the only one feeling that way. Others might be comforted in knowing that they're not alone. Consuming lots of sugar can get you buzzing, but a sugar low usually follows it. When you are tired and add sugar low on top of it, there is no way you will survive the night. Stop having sugar now and have it tomorrow at like 8 a.m. All right? Did someone say it's too late? Amazing. And hackathons are huge events hosted in large venues. One problem with large venues is they have a ton of air conditioning. So stay hydrated because you're going to dry out real quick. And that's all. Before I open the floor to questions, I am going to be here the whole event. So if you need help with front end, give me a shout. Hackathon ideas, pitching, validation, UX branding, presentations, basically all the stuff that's in the book. Also, if you want a break from hacking and feel like you just want to chill out for a bit, go on a walk, I'm happy to come with you. Good. That's it. Questions?
Can we go for a walk?
Yeah, sure. Cool. Lovely stuff.
Thanks very much.
I feel like you get plenty of questions.